now being recorded and it will be put up on YouTube for anybody who missed it tonight. So if you don't want your name or your face in it, please feel free to change it. You are more than welcome to. You just head to participants and then right click on your name here. And the rename button is just there. Awesome. So we are just giving a quick couple of shout outs to local community events. Thrive Festival is on 2021, not 2020, even though it feels like 2020, from Thursday until Friday. It's out in Newmundi, 20 kilometers west. So it's out in the hinterland of the Sunshine Coast. It's an amazing multi-day festival where you go camping. And Reef Check Australia has been chosen to be the volunteer organization involved in coordinating a lot of the festival. So if you're not doing anything for New Year's, here's a festival for you. We do also have another festival coming up in Night Quarter in January the 22nd. It's called Bloom Fest. If you haven't been to Night Quarter yet, it's on the southern end of the Sunshine Coast and it's an awesome, awesome venue. It's got a huge lineup and they've also got a couple bars and food stalls just outside the main stage as well. It's an awesome, awesome place to be. And Horizon Festival is still going on if anybody hasn't been to any of the events. Horizon Fest is a cultural festival in the Sunshine Coast. So it's not just conservation, but it mixes a bunch of different things. And they have events on all over the Sunshine Coast from Noosa down to Caloundra. So head to their festival or just Google Horizon Festival on Facebook and all of their events will be popping up there. And if you haven't seen enough of my beautiful face, I'm also involved in some other conservation action with a title called Global Ocean Beaches. It's a non-profit community group run by researchers at the university here, and we go out and clean our rubbish on the beach. So this image, it's a bit hard to see, but all of those red dots are pieces of plastic that we picked up on the beach on Saturday, actually. It totaled up to be like 1,500 pieces that we picked up over 4 hours, which is a bit crazy. But we've been doing this for the last couple of months and there is no shortage of it. So we need all the help we can get. We're lots of fun, I promise we don't bite. And we always have a picnic with some wine tasting and other things as well when we finish. So if you are a local here in the Sunny Coast and you're not doing anything this weekend or next weekend, we've got some events on the 13th, 14th, 20th and 21st. And they're spread out across from Peregian Beach down to Mooloolaba. They're in different places every time. So you can find us on Meetup, which is an app on your phone. And we have all the rest of the information there. And just quickly, thank you everybody who has been coming to the monthly events. I know a couple of you guys have, for an amazing year. We don't have any Coastal Coral talks in December or January. So the next one starts again next February. If you are interested in being as amazing as all of the volunteers we have are, then come and join us and volunteer. You can volunteer in 2 different ways, either become a Reef Check ambassador like myself and help run and facilitate these community events where you get out and talk to people about conservation and how to protect our oceans. We do provide you with all the training, so there's lots of learning in the process as well. If you are a scuba diver and you just want to go out and dive and have lots of fun with fish, that's also very fair enough. I'm on the same boat. And you're more than welcome to join becoming a survey diver. You do need a couple prerequisites like being a medic dive and having at least 25 dives. But if you wanted any more information on volunteering, head to our website and we have all of the information there. And as always, if you guys aren't already involved in our socials, please do. Facebook and Instagram are our most used social media platforms. However, we're also on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. And here we post all of our events like this one and local action that we're getting into. And just before I forget, I will also launch a poll of everybody here just to see how'd you hear about us and where you're dialing in from. And a couple more thank yous. Community groups and nonprofit organizations like ReefCheck don't run without a huge amount of work in the background, and that includes sponsors. So thank you to the many different organizations that do support us in all of our action. Sunshine Coast Council, Gold Coast, Brisbane, Townsville, Mask Events, Clean Water. I'm sure there are a couple others as well, like Noosa Council. We do appreciate everything they do. And thank you to the volunteers as well. A lot of work goes on to facilitating events like this in the background. And everybody may not be on this slide, but a big thank you to Lindsay, Erland, Jody, and Julie and Terry, obviously. And lastly, we have tonight's speaker, Vicky Schaffer. So Dr. Vicky Schaffer began working at USC in 2005. She completed a degree in sustainable tourism, a bachelor's degree, and then went on to do an honors and a doctorate in philosophy, all which focused her interest on adventure and conservation in the marine environment. Nationally and internationally, she has been recognized for learning and teaching, and firsthand taking one of her courses, I can say she is an amazing teacher and a very great communicator. So we're extremely lucky to have her tonight. She does incorporate a lot of her research into innovative ways of approaching it and collaborating with industry as well. She does everything really. So without further ado, I'll let you speak about yourself now, Vicky.
There we go. Thank you so much, Pablo, and thank you so much for having me. Being the age that I am, it's been really interesting and quite inspiring to watch ReefCheck grow over the years and to develop into the organisation that they are today. And having known a number of students that have actually gone, you know, through ReefCheck at different times, developing their skills, developing their learning, developing their knowledge. It's really nice to finally be here, because we were just talking, Lindsay and I, you have a tendency to, you know, cross paths when you're in this world. So it's nice to actually be in the same place at the same time. So I'm just going to share my screen if you're happy for me to do that.
Most definitely.
Just make sure I've got the right screen to share. There we go. There we go. It, and you popped back onto my other screen so I can look at you all. That's fantastic. So thanks very much for giving your time. Now, whilst I might be presenting this topic, I have to give a shout out to Miss M, because Emily has been working with me on a number of citizen science related projects for quite a few years now. She started out as a student, and we toddled off to the Kingdom of Tonga to go and have a look at some whales swimming at that time, and to see what the cultural relationships were with the marine environment. And then she did her honours, and we toddled out into the ocean and took a few photos, probably not as many as Em would have liked, but we at least had a good go at it. And then Emily's just continued to work with me, and she's been a great collaborator and is a really terrific researcher. So whilst I might be doing a fair bit of the talking, I have to absolutely give kudos to Em for all the work that that she has done as well. So, hey Em, how you going?
Sorry, could you try and share your screen as well? Again, it's just a black screen sharing mode. I think you might have to click one.
Let's have another go. Have another go. Yeah, that's the one.
And sorry to interrupt you, Emily. Hello.
Hey, is it happening? Looks the same to me. So does
Now
it look
it's
better for you?
Yes,
Now it's good.
a lot better.
Oh, okay. Not sure what happened then. Sorry, Em.
No, you're right. I was just about to say I'm here to learn just as much as everyone else. Wouldn't miss a Vicky talk.
You're an expert in this topic as well. So feel free to jump in anytime. Because we're a nice, intimate little group, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question as we go along the way as well. You know, this is meant to be a collaborative activity, so I'm very happy to hear your ideas. And unlike my students, when I ask you a question, feel free to answer. They have a tendency to stay a bit quiet. And don't be too concerned. I'm used to looking out at boxes with people's names on them. So it's just lovely to actually have you here. So thank you so much for including me. I too would like to acknowledge the Gubbi Gubbi people here on the Sunshine Coast, their continuing connection to land and water and community. And I'd like to also pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So tell me, what are the benefits of citizen science? Anyone got any ideas? What's this thing, citizen science, and what are the potential benefits of it?
Getting people involved in saving the world.
Okay, so we've got a few people chatting all at one time. So, Colin, what do you think?
It's getting the community involved, so they're all a part of the environment.
Absolutely, Terry.
Yeah, just a huge expansion in resources, particularly human resources, to assist with things that couldn't be done by just a paid researcher.
Yes, or a volunteer researcher on their own, trying to make a difference. Lindsay.
I was going to add that it's really good to, if people understand the environment a little bit better, it gives them a little bit more of that empathy and compassion to help preserve and save it.
Yes, and an understanding. Students will say to me sometimes, "Oh, Vicky, people just don't care." I truly don't believe that. I truly believe they just don't understand. They don't, that we haven't been connected to the environment in some way. They don't understand the importance of it, and that's our job, isn't it, to get out there and help them understand and to connect with the environment as well. So all of those things are absolutely correct. The marine environment adds another layer of complexity though, doesn't it? Sorry, I'm being the lecturer here, aren't I? So the marine environment adds this extra complexity, and for the same reasons that you said, it's access. How do we get out there? How do people actually engage in the marine environment if they don't have a boat? And we're looking at something that's underneath the water, or trying to engage with migratory species. So that's really challenging. We've got timing. There's limited funding. There's just so much funding to go around to be able to engage people in these sorts of projects as well, in large enough numbers to collect the data that we're looking for. It's remote. So the marine environment is often a remote place. It's a dynamic space, and it's challenged by the weather and, the changing species that are out there, in terms of migration, as we mentioned before. So it's a really challenging space to actually collect data in. So we can engage local people and tourists as tourist scientists. And as you mentioned, Terry, in this way, we can actually amplify the outcomes by reducing some of our cost and the time and the labour intensity that's associated with collecting data in the field. And we can get a broader scale of investigation as well. So this is about discovery. Who doesn't love that moment where you've seen something for the first time, or that creature that you discover, whether it's flora or fauna, and you absolutely don't even know what it is. And you've got to go and find out, and it's all of that is quite exciting for people. It's about developing their skills and their knowledge. I'm writing a paper at the moment, and I'm looking more into diversity and inclusivity, and this is where the tourist scientist comes in, but I'm also looking to try and include people with diverse abilities. And I read a statement and it resonated with me. There is zero research to suggest that people can't do this. We just have to figure out a way of engaging them in a way that's meaningful and possible for everybody in the terms of citizen science. There's a lot of social learning that happens in these spaces as well. I'm often blown away. I had the great fortune of being able to go up to Mon Repos at the beginning of the year as part of the turtle care volunteering that I do. And those little conversations where people were sharing their experiences, their knowledge, different ways that they've approached research is such a great way to learn and expand your learning in a really comfortable environment. So we have that opportunity to have that social learning. Opportunities to make a difference. You know, I can remember talking to Steve Irwin many, many years ago, and he had said to me at that time, his first question for me at the time was, "What are you here for?" And when I said, "Oh, you know, I want to make a difference," you know, his whole face lights up, and he says, "That's what everybody wants to do." Again, we've got to facilitate opportunities for people to actually make a difference in the things that they're passionate about and the things that they don't yet know about. It connects us to place. So Pablo, I'm absolutely positive when you go and clean those beaches, that beach becomes your beach. You now have, you know, ownership over that beach. You are a custodian. You know, it becomes part of your responsibility to take care of it. So again, citizen science gives us the opportunity to connect people to places and spaces and to a variety of species and cultures. Lindsay, you mentioned environmental awareness. Well, that's what we're trying to do, isn't it? We're trying to find an interesting and engaging way to increase people's knowledge and understanding, empathy, love for, all of these things that we talk about in terms of environmental awareness. We do understand now there's more and more research showing that these types of activities do influence people's environmental attitudes and potentially their behaviours. We've had a number of honours students now look at that in the marine environment to do with whale watching and other related activities. And there is some evidence now to suggest that that's happening. And it's about building social capital and human capital. So that's the opportunity to expand ourselves, you know, and then also our communities and building that cohesion and building that knowledge, understanding, respect, all the things that we've been talking about. So, question for you. What do you think the benefits of citizen science are? So if you've participated in citizen science or you know of a citizen science activity that others have been involved in, what benefits do you think as an individual you could derive from being a citizen scientist? Fiona, and I love your picture, Fiona.
Thank you. I think it's ownership and stewardship of getting people more involved so that they take on that ownership of the environment and of that species. And yeah, that's what I think citizen science is really important for.
Yes, and you see it happen time and time again, don't you? Whether it's a fairy wren or the black glossy cockatoo or a frog or, you know, a fish, whatever it happens to be, you see people become really passionate about a particular species and will stand up for that species and its habitat. So it might start out as, I really love this frog, and then it's, well, I really love this wetland. Oh, and I really love this. And so it expands, doesn't it? And gives people the opportunity to really engage and build that connection. And as you say, have that stewardship. So really an important activity for people to be able to engage with. We need to consider the participant experience, and that's where I come in. Whilst my passion is absolutely the marine environment, having lived on the ocean for 12 years and I'm preparing to buy another boat so that we can go and do it all again in the hopefully the near future, that's my area of interest. But I'm still a tree hugger. I still love, you know, trees and going out into the bush and taking the grandkids out there and enjoying those opportunities as well. But my area of this is trying to understand, how do we do this? How do we build that stewardship? How do we build that connection to place? What is the experience? Why do people actually undertake this? And it's often, particularly in the early stages, that it's probably got nothing to do with the environment. It's because mum told me to do it, or it's a family activity, or my friends were doing it and I was pressured into it. You know, there was some external influence why people ended up there on that particular day. We see things like curiosity, I didn't have anything else to do, you know, all of these types of comments. And when you follow up with these people over time, it becomes more and more about wanting to engage in the environment. But we've got to consider their experience. As researchers, yep, we want to achieve our project aims. We want to be able to collect data. We want to inform policy. We want to inform practice. But you can't just recruit people and use them. I don't like using the word use. You know, we engage with people, we collaborate, we cooperate depending on the level of activity they're going to have within the project or choose to have. But it's about bringing them in and ensuring that their experience is a positive one. We've got to think about their motivation, their level of commitment. You know, just because, you know, most of us would be willing to get up on a Sunday morning at 4 a.m. in the freezing cold and the rain to do an activity, to count something or to collect rubbish, doesn't mean that everybody's motivation is the same. So we've got to figure out, or the level of commitment, you know, it starts raining and they go, oh, I'm not going today. We've got to figure out how to connect them in such a way that their commitment level also increases. And we've talked about what is their current skill and asking them, what do you actually want to achieve out of this? And for people, it's for some of the folks that we talk to in particular, they say things like, I want to build my knowledge. I want to build my skill. I want to understand more about a particular species or an environment or a culture or research, you know, data collection. People are interested in knowing more about that. So we've got to find out what that is. And what is their ability? And the ability, as I mentioned before, are diverse abilities. So we've got to be open to figuring out how do we actually engage these diverse groups, whether they be because they're young, you know, children, maybe they're older, like my mum-in-law, she's here and she's going to come and participate in a citizen science project with me. You know, how do we do that? Is it people with special needs? You know, and there's a whole plethora of special needs that we need to consider when we're trying to design our projects. What are their expectations? What are they hoping to get out of this? So if I've rocked up today and I was motivated because my friends, you know, pressured me to come and I had nothing else to do, well, what is your expectation? What were you hoping to get out of it? And again, while we think it's going to be because I'm going to make the environment a beautiful place, it might be I want to meet new people. Well, that's okay. We can introduce you to like-minded people. We can, you know, facilitate that for you as part of this process. So it's really important to understand what that might be and be open to what the response is. And then thinking about what the outcomes will be. The outcome for the participant, not just the project. The outcome for the community, not just our projects. So these are some important things that we need to consider. And we have to have that considered approach. And if we start to think about the participant and their needs, etc., we can start thinking more about diversity and inclusivity. And that's where Em and I went, hey, what about tourists? They're all out there doing all of these activities all of the time. What about if we engage them in something that's meaningful to them as well? And since COVID, this is what we're seeing with visitors and tourists. They actually want meaningful experiences when they visit places. They want to learn something about the places that they visit. They want to connect with the places that they're visiting. They want smaller group type experiences so that they can have that connection and facilitate meaning for them as well. So these are really critical factors. So are any of you involved in citizen science or either designing experiences or participating in experiences? You can, Terry is, yep. Yep, thumbs up are good. You can give me a thumbs up. Yep, and Fiona. Of course, Pablo. Emily should have a thumbs up. She's involved in these things too. And Jody, actually, I would be aware of your activities, Jody. So great. So tell me now, somebody within that group, what's your approach to increasing diversity in your participants? Anyone want to share what their what approaches they take to
That's a good question.
yeah, increasing diversity?
I guess for me, when I'm involved in projects, I try to make sure that I market it to be as applicable to everybody as possible, shall we say. Not just like if we're doing a lot of environmental conservation, market towards leftist people who already go out on the weekends and plant trees and save rainforests and stuff, because they're not the people that we're trying to grab. They're not the group that we're trying to put all our attention on. So I try and flip my mind and think like other people would and say, okay, going to the pub this weekend and that's all I'm going to do. How do we get people like that to get out here and swim with our dolphins and whales and then fall down this slippery slope of everything else?
Yeah, and participate in something in a meaningful way, to actually engage in it, not stand on the periphery and watch. You know, the marine environment is not there for our entertainment, really. You know, we shouldn't be thinking about these activities as, you know, like an entertainment activity, although we do get a great deal of joy out of it. It you know, it does inspire us, all these positive emotions, but we want them to engage. We want them to connect. We want them to participate, and not in a passive way. We want them to be more active, engaging, so that then hopefully it leads to other activities as well. Colin, did you have something you'd like to share?
Yeah. Look, it was one of the things that, you know, we have some migratory birds and we have nudie branches on the beaches and turtles, but it appears that the people with the dog owners seem to want to use this space for their own dog enjoyment, and to try and get through to those people, it's kind of awkward. I don't know. It's kind of tricky.
But it's important, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely important. You know, and I'm trying to think of some citizen science way to do this, to sort of change the behavior.
Yes, so that's going to be your challenge. But think about it from their perspective. If they don't know that there's nudibranchs, if they don't know that there's turtles, and being a turtle care volunteer, lots of people on the coast have no idea that we have turtles on the beaches. So it's not their fault, for want of a better thing, because they don't even know it's there. They don't know what they're looking for. So we've got to figure out, how do we let them know and then engage them in that activity so that then it becomes more meaningful for them.
Yes,
because it is really all about me, you know. That's what people are like, you know, it's all about me. So we've got to say, okay, it's all about you. And while you're here, you know, coming to this place, space, beach, park every day, that's fantastic. You can really help collect data that's going to inform, you know, policy and practice, and, you know, give them some sense of this is an important activity, and it's really easy, and we understand their level of commitment might be short. And then design it around, you know, opportunities around engaging them. And then, you know, watch that space, and then make sure that you keep them informed. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But these are important questions that we need to be asking ourselves, because, you know, folks don't know what to do unless we figure out how to increase their knowledge. And I deliberately chose not to say tell them, because that's not what we're doing either. We've got to figure out, how do they serendipitously come across this great opportunity and this moment of discovery, and then give them meaning, help them understand the meaning of that activity as well. It's no good just saying, do you want to count stuff? We've got to, you know, figure out what meaning does that have for me. So yes, I'll be interested to hear, Colin, how you're going to tackle that problem.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm here. I'm here to learn. So
Well, she'll see if we can give you some tidbits to work with.
Okay, Vicky, good.
So the citizen scientists, so Emily and I came up with this definition. So tourist scientists, so we call this tourist science, tourism sites, tourist sites, and we call them tourist scientists. Everybody loves to think of themselves as a scientist. And so why not? They're a traveling scientist. So those people are traveling outside their usual environment who serendipitously or intentionally participate in a collaborative research project. So they're either collecting data or they might be analysing the data. There's all sorts of ways. They might actually participate in the early stage and help design a project and give feedback to how a project might be able to be undertaken. And the goal being to generate new knowledge and understanding. I'm sort of moving away from education and starting to use more language around learning. Education tends to say to people that I'm here to educate you, so they think school. Whereas learning is a lifelong activity. We do this every single day. I love your picture, Fiona, because I was saying to Pablo, we had a tawny fall out of the tree earlier on today, and there was mum and dad and two chicks. Sorry, male and female and two chicks, and they were on the ground, and we were really quite concerned about it, and we let them do what they were going to do, and it was getting to dark, and we've got some feral cats in the bush here in Budrum. And so we were quite concerned about what we should do about this. Fortunately, they collected themselves up and took the chicks back up into the tree. So that's why I love your picture. But we've got some families staying with us and they'd never seen a tawny frogmouth. And so, we had to give meaning to that because they're saying, why don't you just go in and pick them up? Well, we can't do that, and talking to them about it. And now that I see they're sending photos to other family members and they're talking about their experience of seeing the tawny frogmouth. So now I've got them. So I'm going to keep them going now and give them more information about, not only the tawny, but the environment that they live in, so on and so forth. So they're actually visitors here. So we all have this opportunity when people come to our homes to try and connect them with stuff in our gardens and our environments and take them around to see different activities as well. But it's all about that learning, that opportunity to just find out something new, to engage in something that's going to be meaningful. And this is an incredibly untapped group. I mean, just for a moment, think about it. The floodgates are going to open all too soon. And we'll be back to, 1 billion people traveling around the planet on any given year. We need to get these folks to start to think about the impact that they're having when they travel, the impact they have when they go into other communities. And if they're looking for something meaningful, we've got a great opportunity here through citizen science to be able to give them that meaning and to really create some great benefits and outcomes. So Emily drew this or designed this based on the findings that we had, and we're lucky enough to have had it published. So a bit exciting, hey Em? So it's talking about the different ways that we can engage people. So citizen science, often people think that it means you've got to go out and you've got to take a pen and paper and you've got to, count stuff or record some kind of behavioural observations. And that's absolutely a huge part of that. But there are different ways that we can engage in that particular space. So citizen science is really about this open recruitment from large, undefined networks of people. And when we think about tourists, that's what we're talking about. There's a diverse group of people that are going to come across our path when we start to engage with visitors to different places. We've got citizen surveillance. There was some fantastic work done in New Zealand and also here in Australia. And 95% of new non-Indigenous invertebrate species on Barrow Island in Australia in 2017 were discovered by public, community and visitors to the region. Now that's huge. That's a really great outcome in terms of identification of species. And that was about surveillance. So that's just folks serendipitously going about their business and collecting information. And then they can submit that to researchers or, use an app, however they're going to do that. The other thing about citizen surveillance is when we're out and about, doing our thing in the marine environment, or you've got boaties out there, sailors or powerboat folks, they can monitor different places as well. So where are people anchoring? What damage are they seeing occurring at different reefs? The expansion of what you guys are doing with Reef Check as well. So these people can be out there going about their recreation and leisure activities and report back their serendipitous discoveries. And it might be that they've noticed a large number of broken coral. Well, they might not know the answer to why they did that, but they can alert somebody like you guys, and then you can investigate that further and start to put something in place. And you contact them and you thank them for their time and their important information, and you follow up with them and tell them what the outcome of it was. Those sort of things are the things we can do to make sure that people have longer engagement with us, and it's not just a one-off activity. So they're the sort of things around surveillance. And then crowdsourcing, the wisdom of the crowd. There are so many ways that we can engage tourists, whether it be because they've joined a tour, or because they just happen to be in our region, and through social media we're able to engage with them and ask them to report the sightings of different species, or whatever they happen to, whatever it is our project is actually focusing on. And again, you get these really large sample sizes of data around observations from people that are engaging. They might only engage with you one time, but that's okay. They'll remember that activity, and you'll follow up with them and tell them the outcome of the migratory birds that were coming, and report back some information. And then when the opportunity presents itself again, they'll engage again. So there are lots of different ways that we can actually do this. Recruitment, engagement, and retention. Oh, huge problems, yeah? Yeah. It's hard, isn't it, Pablo? You put so much energy into getting this person to come to the activity, and then you don't see them again, and you think, oh, that's such a lot of energy. I've got to do it again and again and again. But if your strategy is around following up, that you accept some people may only sporadically participate in the activities, then you're not closing doors. You're not thinking, oh, I've got to do all this again. It's part of the strategy. It's part of the design of the project that you will have these people coming in with different levels of commitment and different expectations about that as well. So that's really, you've got to consider that, particularly with tourists, because you could have this high turnover of people coming through. So then the support, how do you actually support them? What sort of training will they need? What sort of resources are available? Who doesn't carry a mobile phone now? So they've got the tools we need in their back pocket. We've just got to help them understand how they might use that. QR codes are fantastic for, a nice small little something to put onto a poster, or to put onto a post, or to put somewhere that people can actually use to be able to log in and report what they've seen, whatever that might look like. I'm playing around with Kobo Toolbox at the moment, and connecting that to street maps. And so that like the map you showed us, Pablo, so you can get these heat spots of where lots of sightings have occurred, or where a lot of people were actually collecting data. So it depends what you're trying to report on, and that's a good tool to use that. There's a couple of other similar tools. The Dark Sky Association in Australia, they did a Guinness Book of Records, and we used a similar type of tool to be able to measure the darkness of the sky of people around the world. So similar type of tool as Kobo Toolbox. So there's so many cool things, and I'm into free. Things have to be free. I don't ask students to go and buy stuff. We've got to figure out, how do we do this for free? So many projects don't have enough funding to be paying for software or hardware. It's just enough to try and, pay your research assistants. So, again, having these free, readily available tools and searching those out and sharing those with each other, I think that's key as well. Allows us to be able to engage these folks, in many different ways throughout the research process. We've talked about the benefits, but one of the interesting things that we talk about in tourism is serendipity. So people go, and their most memorable experiences are those where they met somebody that they shared an interesting story with, or they tasted some food that they'd never had before, or they saw something in the environment that really connected with them, or somebody told them something about the environment that that was the most amazing thing they'd ever heard. And so it really connected with them. So that serendipity that's in tourism absolutely connects to the serendipitous discovery associated with citizen science. Tourists are taking photos all the time. It's just, what was the statistic? What did I share with you guys? It was, what's the thing about putting photos on Instagram? It's like a billion photos a day or something get posted on Instagram. We could use those photos. Think about how much data is sitting there that we could potentially be able to tap into. And the fact that people love to take photos, and if they think their photos are going to have a meaning and a purpose beyond just sitting on their phones, there's an incentive there to engage their photos, their input, their data into a project. So think about that as well. The thing about tourist scientists too, in terms of business and destinations and regional awareness, is around repeat visitation. So if people are looking for more slow experiences, so slow tourism is when you actually don't jet set all the way around the country in 3 days. It's where you go to a place and immerse yourself in that environment, that culture, that place. And so if we can get people to do that, that creates an opportunity for positive word of mouth and repeat visitations and loyalty to that region. It also creates an awareness and a sense of, we were talking before about stewardship and ownership. And I don't mean ownership in the sense that, I've got to physically own something, but a sense that I belong in that place. That's my place. And so therefore it's respected, and the people in the host community are respected. The environment is respected. And so these are the sorts of outcomes we can try and facilitate when we talk about tourist scientists as well. Outcomes, supporting projects, supporting project success, inform policy and planning, as we've talked about, increase public scientific knowledge. Now, we know that that's really key for the government at the moment. So that's one of their, aims, is to get more people involved in STEM. Now, I don't say STEM, so I came up with a nice little acronym when I went to the Citizen Science Conference last week, and I'm going to start using it because it's more than people just participating in science. This is people's lives. This is avenues to learn in many different ways. So whilst it is about science, it's much broader than science in the context that we think of it in. It's around social science as well. And engaging, as we've talked about. It also reveals unexpected events. Now, again, we were doing some turtle research, and one of the other researchers that was part of the group mentioned something that made us look at what we were looking at differently, and we had made a discovery, so it was a really interesting opportunity where it was unexpected. None of us were expecting that to be the outcome, but it was revealed to us by one of the other parties in the group. That could be that a knowledge is shared from somebody in the group that you hadn't even thought of. They might say to you, why are you talking to people with dogs using that particular tool, or using that particular approach? Have you thought of actually doing X, Y, or Z? And suddenly we as researchers learn something about data collection, about engaging with other groups, about talking to people. So all of these things become really exciting because they're unexpected for us as well. Identify avenues to advance research methods. And we need to do that, innovation. As Pablo and Emily will know, I teach an innovation course. So I'm always looking at new ways to look at something, new ways to be able to engage in what we consider to be common practice. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean we should always continue to do it that way. There are new ways and new approaches that will facilitate our opportunity to be able to get this diversity and inclusivity that we're looking for as well. So some of the things, Colin, I'm not sure there's anything on here specifically, but let's think about it, and you think about it in the context of what you want to try and achieve as well. We've got to create well-aligned learning plans. So if our goal is to increase knowledge, we've got to consider learning. And it's got to be part of the design of the project. It can't be a serendipitous thing on our part. If that is one of our outcomes, we've got to think about it from the minute we start to go, right, I'm going to develop a citizen science project to look at the tawny frogmouth. You've got to start thinking straight away, okay, what are the learning outcomes that we can achieve? What is it that the participants actually would like to learn, and how do we facilitate that? Okay, and we've got to articulate those really well as part of our projects. So my experience of the last 12 to 18 months is very much that this is what funding bodies are looking for as well. They want to know that we are specifically going to increase knowledge and skill, and that we've got a learning plan as part of that process. And we need to learn, we need to measure those learning outcomes. Okay, it's part of the project. It's not that we're just looking at our scientific, you know, species counts or whatever we're doing, but learning is an aim or an objective of the project that's well articulated. So we have to think about these one-off or intermittent volunteers. I went to Lady Elliot Island and didn't even know I could get involved in it. This is a long time ago now. Didn't even know I could get involved in a project while I was there. It wasn't called citizen science in those days, but we went out onto the reef and we were identifying things, and we learnt so much. I will never forget the experience. I've not been back, only because time, you know, has gotten away. But I always remember that, and I've taken that learning into other environments. So think about if we could do that for our tourist volunteers. You know, again, how do we engage them? Fun learning games, you know, particularly with children. I'm sure Lindsay has some amazing stuff that she could share with for her children that she works with. Her little rangers, you know, those folks that are going out and being our next stewards as they come through. Rewards, and reward doesn't mean monetary, you know, or a free pass for something. It's reward is intrinsic as well. I've achieved a goal. I've achieved what I wanted to do. I've learned something new. I remember reading from one of our respondents was, I'm proud of myself. I never thought I could do this. So again, we take it for granted, but here is an opportunity to engage people who may never have done anything in the science space before. They go to the beach column with their dogs because they love the beach and they love the experience they have with their dogs. They don't even know that there is these other opportunities there, or these other things that they could get engaged with. So the reward can be intrinsic. It doesn't have to be extrinsic. Guidance and participant monitoring. So, you know, this becomes a bit of a tricky one, particularly if we're not going to be on site. But all those great technologies that we've got now that we can apply to engage people, give them some training, make sure they've got some videos, figure out how do we, you know, give them the information that they need in the way that they need it as well. And a lot of those tools like I mentioned Kobo Toolbox, but there's a number of other tools that have little tiny modules in them. So you do a little bit, you answer a little question, you get a little yellow star. It's very exciting. And, you know, again, you're learning, you're engaging, then you've learnt that little bit and then you can apply it. You learn a little bit more and you can apply it. And it can be done in your time, you know, so in the participants' time. So training undertaken in the company of professionals. So this came about, Em and I were talking about, there's quite a lot of really great volunteer research projects, but you have to be a member volunteer to be able to do it. But what about if we partnered an experienced volunteer with a visitor? Now, the visitor may only come once, but here is a great opportunity to impart your knowledge, your skill, the social learning, meeting somebody new, that whole gamut of different reasons and motivations why people come. So you partner them with somebody that can spend a bit of time with them. And they might be here for 2 weeks. They might do it once. They might do it every day for 2 weeks. They might turn around and sign up. Don't know, but we've got to figure out how do we actually do that. And training can be face-to-face or it can be digital. And again, you've got to figure that out as part of your project design. And the one that I'm really passionate about is engaging tourism operators. And when I was at the Citizen Science Conference, most people were talking about the tourism operators were collecting the data, but they've got a boat, for example, with 100 people on it. well, there's 100 people that we could get engaged in some kind of meaningful activity that ties to the interpretation that the boat's offering, you know, and the experience, and we can increase the quality of the experience and therefore satisfaction of the product that's being offered. We can create connections that, again, give meaning to these people's experiences and connect them with our environment, our species, whatever it is that we're trying to achieve, and give them that learning opportunity. So working with tourism operators is a fantastic opportunity to be able to engage not only with them, but with their tourists, their visitors. Okay? We have to do that respectfully, but it's quite easy to do. So economic, social, environmental benefits, huge number of benefits. As a destination, can create competitive advantage. As a business, it can create competitive advantage. If the Sunny Coast is going to be known for its sustainability, let's have visitors that we engage in meaningful activities, okay, that contribute positively to our environment where we live, the broader environment, and that these people will take home and look after in their own environments as well and extend that further. So these immersive, memorable, transformative experiences. At some point, if anybody's interested in awe and emotion and cognitive appraisal, the sorts of things I'm doing with my colleague Lee Canis Diamond, and I see Ashira is there. Ashira is studying this space at the moment and really looking at awe because awe is a transformational emotion. It can be positive or negative. Negative people think is a bad thing, but just think about if you go and engage in the environment and this is really out of your comfort zone, there's fear associated with that. But fear's not a bad thing. Fear can be a motivator. Yeah, it can motivate people. When you were climbing on that double black diamond, you would have been scared, but you conquered your fear. You used it to push you forward, to learn something new, to challenge yourself, you know, so all of these emotions we can tap into and try and understand how they feel so that then we can have that transformation, that pro-environmental outcomes that we're really seeking as part of our what we're trying to achieve as of environmental lovers. So to increase customer satisfaction, loyalty, and repeat visitation, as I mentioned before. So all of these are potential outcomes, but that also are underpinned by sustainability, underpinned by environmental outcomes that are going to be meaningful, well beyond the project or the activity that these folks are engaged with. Okay, so I think that we might be getting to the end. So structure serendipity. Don't tell people to the point of them going, okay, step 1, get the piece of paper out. Step 2, pick up your pencil. Step 3, count something. Step 4, write that number in the little box on the left-hand side of the piece of paper. Let them figure some of this out for themselves. Let them have this discovery moment, you know, this challenging themselves and then discovering something within themselves as well as within the environment as well. Think about what they need. Think about what they need pre, post, and during, and not just recruitment, you know, participation, engagement, and retention, but think about what they might need. So if their motivation is, you know, to meet new people, facilitate that. Don't send them off on their own, you know, facilitate opportunities for groups to get together, even if it's online. Think about the added value that this would have for a tourist's overall experience. So engage in that. Okay? Think about how you can do that. Offer those support mechanisms that they need to be able to participate, get the information, etc. Communicate the outcomes, communicate the outcomes, communicate the outcomes. Okay, if we're going to engage somebody and we never follow up with them, we're done. They'll only give us one chance and they'll go, oh, they said they were going to follow up and they never did. You're crazy if we don't follow up. That's called retention. You know, there is a perfect opportunity, whether they're tourists or local people, to say your contribution was invaluable. Thank you so much. And this was the outcome of that. Okay? And when we do that, it empowers people. It makes them feel like they've got value. I'm the Oprah generation. And when I watched Oprah when I was in my 20s, I remember her saying, all anybody wants is to know that they are valued. and that they have value. And how easy it is in this context to say, thank you, your contribution has made a difference. Okay, so look for those opportunities. And then there's economic benefits as well for the operators, for researchers, for communities, and for participants, depending on what type of activity it might be that they're involved in. And I've got one more slide, and Emily doesn't know this slide. So what if you want to be a tourist scientist, but there's nothing on offer in the destination that you go? What are you going to do? Any ideas? What can we do if I'm going to a destination and I've done a bit of searching and there's no specific project that I could get involved in, although they are all over the world and increasing in number every day. But I couldn't find anything, but I want to do some citizen science while I'm away. What can I do?
Make up your own.
Make up your own. And Lindsay, what would that look like? What could I actually do?
You could figure out what is in that area that you're interested in, and then find a similar project that's somewhere else in the world. Like I'm sure that Reef Check is similar in that way, that we have organizations all over the place, but I think any of those organizations would find it valuable learning about the data in a place where Reef Check doesn't exist yet.
Absolutely. Green fins. I mean, there's so many different global activities around the globe, I should say, that we can get involved in. That's the perfect answer. There's a heap of stuff you can get involved in. You could do journaling. So whilst you're off taking your photos and doing your sketches, and that data is invaluable. You can find somewhere to share that. You can collect data and share it. You can take pictures and share it. You can observe stuff and share it. And look, I'm not connected to any of these, but I've used all of them. I'm always looking to have a look at some, citizen science activities, Zooniverse, so if all else fails, you can go and do something on Zooniverse. But the Atlas of Living Australia, the Frog ID people, the virtual reef diver, that's the one that's the image there as well. The Astro Quest, that's a space one. The Fairy Wren project, Quest Again. There are so many free things that we could take with us that researchers would be so grateful for you to add your data to the pool. So we don't have to wait for a project to come and tap us on the shoulder. We can find a project. And so when we have visitors to our house, and so tourists, visitors, we can say, oh, tomorrow we're actually going out to the Maroochy Botanical Gardens and we're going to start to have a look at some species. Let me show you the Atlas of Living Australia. Whenever I show people that, they're blown away. And we go and look at their area and we go and find out what species are in their area. And then it starts this whole dialogue, and then we post a couple of things so that they know how to do it. Away they go. Next thing I find out, they're doing it at home. Or the kids take it to school and share it, for show and tell, or whatever it happens to be. So we can all facilitate this with the visitors we have. We can be visitors to regions and positively contribute to the places that we visit as well. And there's not a slide large enough to fit the plethora of projects that are available to you. And I love them. They're fun. There's some really cool stuff out there. You learn something every time, and it takes a few minutes of your time, really. And people have made that valuable contribution. They've collaborated, they've participated, they've engaged, and they got something out of it. So think about that for your projects as well. So thanks so much for having me. I do like to talk. So I'm sorry if I got a bit carried away there. I get a bit passionate about it all. And kudos to Miss M as well. I couldn't do a lot of the things that I've been able to do in research over the last few years without M's help. She's been integral to us collecting data and looking at things differently. And I've learned so much from M. And so thanks so much for all your help, Em, and for your partnership in a lot of the research that I'm doing. So thanks heaps, folks, for having me here. It's been an absolute joy.
Thank you so much, Vicky. Every time I see one of your lectures, I'm reminded about how much passion and energy you emit out onto everybody. It's amazing to see.
So you got any questions? Yeah, sorry.
If you have any questions, please feel free to unmute and say hello. If everybody was willing to as well, normally we take a photo, like a selfie at the end of the video. If everybody wanted to turn on their video so we can see your shining, beautiful smiles, and we can get a nice photo for socials.
Poor shy, like my students, they're also shy.
I don't think I can turn the video on.
Oh, let me see if I can help you, Colin.
Ah, here it is.
Okay, let me work out my Zoom so I can see everyone. Oh, look at all these bright faces. Awesome. Okay, so we'll take a selfie in 3, 2, 1. Wonderful. Let me check that I got it. It's very funny how selfies have evolved over time.
In the olden days, we took a sketch, dear.
Awesome, I got it.
For those of you that don't know, I'm at the University of the Sunshine Coast. I'm really easy to find. Just Google my name and contact me anytime. I'm happy to chat to people. If I can help you or you think you can help me and you want to get involved in some of the stuff that we're doing or find out some of the projects that we're doing, honestly, just give me a shout out. I'd be very happy to chat to you anytime.
Thanks, Vicky. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was a very good talk. I definitely learned heaps about how to better engage tourists or just the general community as scientists. It's something a lot of scientists struggle with, especially with my supervisor. So it's something I'm trying to work on.
I had Ian Tibbets walk the beach one time, just taking it on the beach. That was fantastic. It was, you learned so much, you know, and I've had some other PhD students from UQ do one on migratory birds, another one do it on mangroves. So it was just fascinating, you know. You really engaged the people in a way that wasn't threatening to their, and then I remember the migratory birds one, these people then ran away and got all their neighbors and come around and hauled them into the process. They said, what, we're going to do this more, you know. So I'm doing another one next year. So.
Oh, well done. That's so fantastic to hear. Thank you so much. I mean, we've all got to do something, haven't we? So I'm always so inspired to hear the sorts of activities that people are undertaking. And I'm grateful because I want my grandchildren to have the sorts of opportunities that I had to see different things and to experience life in the environment. So thank you so much.
But I think I might start a blog site. That might do it. And then I can capture the information and then share that with people at various times. They, well, this is what's down here. This is what's on the beach.
Absolutely. Did anybody go to the Citizen Science Conference last week? SitSci 2021?
I didn't, unfortunately. How was it?
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. The chief scientist spoke. She was so amazing. And I learned heaps of things. I've got about 38 pages of notes. And Colin, you made me think of something then. So they were doing, there's a lady in Noosa and also in Brisbane, I think they run it, and they do these journaling. And they sketch what they see on the beach and they take a photo and then they, you know, write comments about it and observations. And these things have now become invaluable for sharing that data and that knowledge and that information and your observation. And you might see something that somebody else might not see. You might see something in a different way than somebody else had seen it before. And it was so interesting. So yeah, look.
I did one a while ago where there was a government hack fest. They did that a few weeks ago, right? So I started that as a project, not knowing what I was going to do. Anyway, just over the south here, there's on the Scarborough side, there's a few mangroves there. So I centered around that. So what I did was I took some pictures and, you know, like there was a grey mangrove, there was a red mangrove, and there was some salt bush. So I So I got I made a poster with a PowerPoint, you know, how it does, it automatically does that fancy looking, you know, picture. So I did that, and then I put a QR code on it that linked to a website that to the Department of Environment website about salt bush, or one about red mangroves. And I put this sign up, right? And, you know, there was one there was a, on a sausage tree as well. Anyway, I put them there, and people are still coming up and putting their phone up against this QR code to find out more about it. It's still ongoing. It's amazing.
Good on you. That's fantastic. You're amazing. That's awesome. See, there's some things we could do. So, you know, when we think about trying to engage folks on the beach, Colin, you know, maybe think of this sort of type of approach that would engage people. That's not threatening, that's interesting, that they can just wander up. Oh, look what we found here. Serendipitous discovery.
Yes.
And then participate.
Yes.
Love it. You're amazing. That's fantastic.
Well, the Ian Tibbetts bit, you know, walking on the beach and just picking up stuff about, you know, the stingrays. Oh, this is a stingray, you know, it was fantastic. It was good.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, there's always something to see, isn't there? It's always something new that we didn't know about.
That's right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I'm working
thanks, Em.
I'm working with the council actually to develop some posters, you know, to make them more aware of the marine park, right? And if you want, I can share this, show you the slides that I've sent to the council for a grant, right? To try and say, okay, look, this is an idea. Anyway, now I've got the council engaged. They're actually going to come around and have another chat to me. So,
good on you. Is that Moreton Council?
Yeah, Moreton Bay Pegasus.
Yeah.
So if you share the screen, I can just give you a quick. I don't know who's in charge of sharing the screen.
Pablo, you got that? Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
I don't know where. Hold on, let me find out where this is. Project. So here it is.
Okay. Now try seeing if you can click a bright green button, the share screen button.
Sure, let me just. Oh yeah, there it is. So what I've done, this is a sample of the 5 flags, like for Anzac Parade, anywhere in the council area. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next slide is this, right? Sort of, because I belong to a Rotary group called SRAG, right? And so this is what, you know, the 5 flags might look like. And then I've got this one, right? So, you know, this one, but we just got to get the messaging right. And I'm not sure what the messaging will be. You know, so it's this is sort of 5 flags concept, but I think we've got to develop it a bit more to try and get them, you know, to get the people as they drive around thinking a bit more, you know, why are they, you know, how do they, you know, just be more respectful of the environment, you know, or in this case, you know, I was just focusing on the Moreton Bay Marine Park, but yeah, obviously there's plastics and all those other things that to think of, you know, so you could develop, you know, 5 or 6 different themes, right? One might be plastics, one might be picking up litter, one might be protecting the marine park. So all these things. So I'm sort of trying to work with the council, and they're starting to get a bit more engaged with me about developing these plans. So your insight, Vicky, is good. And I saw another presentation recently about citizen science by someone else. I can't remember who it was, and I've got the notes somewhere, but it was an awesome one as well. But yeah.
It's fantastic. Just trying to figure out what would engage people is quite a challenge, isn't it? You know, because we're so committed to what we're doing, and we've really got to step back and go, okay, what really would motivate people? And we've collected quite a bit of that data now to try and understand why somebody would get involved. There's some really interesting data that research that Griffith has done on koala communications with koalas.
Right.
So you know, that might be useful for you to have a look at as well, and what sort of messaging worked, and how they went about actually you know, what language do you use? And I was thinking, Pablo, you mentioned something before, and I thought, you know, we've got to make sure that we use the appropriate language. You know, if you wanted to get those folks out of the pub and in, you know, collecting rubbish, you know, the language that we use is really a critical component of that. So I Googled their project and I was able to find the PDF of the results, and it was Griffith Communication and Koalas, something like that. But again, just let me know and I'll dig it up.
Right. There's another because one. Richard Filler, we saw him do a presentation a while ago, and he spoke about a similar thing, you know, that everybody wants the environment, but of course, you know, the dog people don't see that what they're doing is destroying the environment. So, you know, so it's got to be a message to get through somehow to sort of to get that message through, you know. So,
to make that connection, because you know, it's not that the dog people don't care. It's not that. They love the environment. Their dogs have a great time. They get fresh air and exercise. They're really connected, but they don't know what's in that place or space that could be being negatively impacted. And we don't want to say that. So we've got to figure out, oh, did you know that you actually share this environment with one of Australia's most you know, amazing creatures, you know. Someone said recently, and I was talking about jellyfish, and they went, oh, who cares about jellyfish? And I said, did you know that the jellyfish has no brain and no heart, and yet it's a living creature? And they went, oh, actually, I'd never really thought about that. Well, let's have a chat. You know? So you just got to pick that one thing that would make them go, oh, I didn't know that. And sometimes it's a connection to childhood or connection to, you know, something else in their lives that we don't always know what that is. So, you know, tapping into that and so in tourism, we say know thy customer. If you don't know your customer, you're wasting your marketing dollars. And I think the same thing in citizen science. We're wasting our time recruiting people if we're not doing it in such a way that it's going to be meaningful for them. So know thy participants, you know them well before you actually, you know, engage. So collect the data, find out what do people in Moreton Bay think of mangroves. What do they think of the marine park? How many people know? You know, if you talk to marketers, that's what they do. They say, how many people know about the Sunshine Coast? How many people know about Redcliffe? And then you go, okay, well, that was a bit of a surprise. We've realized that nobody knows. So what's our message going to be? Who do we want to target? You know, when in tourism, we think about, you know, higher yield, fewer numbers. You know, so we want people that are going to come here and appreciate the place that we live in and appreciate the environment and appreciate the host community and appreciate the culture. So it's up to us to engage them in that space. You know, mangroves have had a pretty hard time. You know, when I was a kid, they were everywhere. Now you've got to go and count the trees, don't you? Because you can count them on two hands. So how do we get people to understand the importance of mangroves? And they're a cool plant.
Oh, they're very cool.
Very cool. So sorry, Pablo, I could talk all night.
Yes. When you solve that problem, by the way, Colin, please do share with the rest of us.
Well, I did one for the mangroves as well. I'll share the screen. I'll just show you another one. But I did this for Cope 26 actually. So if you go to Ocean Innovators.
Ocean Innovators, that would be interesting to me.
And so here, this is so this is me at the mangroves in Hayes Inlet. And there's a whole video that's done here. I'll let you watch it yourself, but you can go to Ocean Innovators and see it.
I will be doing just that.
Yeah, same. That looks like an awesome website.
Does?
They did that at Cope 25, so at Cope 26 rather. So yeah.
I teach innovation in 3 different courses next semester, so I'll be heading to yours.
Oh, no.
Thank you for sharing. That's great. Pablo's going to do a project in the new year, and I'm going to supervise his project. I'm very excited about it. He's going to engage with me in communication for empowerment of volunteers in citizen science projects. So hopefully we'll have some findings that he'll be able to share with you guys. But don't forget, folks, that there's a whole bunch of students out there who are, really require experience. You've got such a wealth of rich knowledge that you could share with students to help them better engage and better communicate, and that we could learn from them as well. I mean, I learn heaps from my students all the time. Sometimes I think I get the better end of the deal when I teach because I learn so much. So don't forget to engage them. You've got great projects here. So reach out to them and see how they can engage and support and help and, as part of their university programs or their primary or high school programs. So, yeah, don't be scared to reach out. Just give me a call. I'll find a student for you.
As a student, I can say we need all the help we can get. So
yeah, and you do. Yeah. And we've got a campus at Moreton. So don't forget USC at Moreton Bay.
Yeah, I know, Petrie, I'm onto it, the one I did with the wader birds up at Kakadu Beach up in Robbie Island, but that was just from the UQ Marine Society, but with Tamara and so forth. But yeah, look, I'll certainly reach out to you, Vicky. Will do. Thank you.
That'd be awesome. See, I'm the winner out of tonight's presentation.
There you go. You've got a new follower.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, we'll let you go.
Yeah, if we're all finished, I'll end the call now if everyone's happy to enjoy the rest of your evening.
Actually, what you should do is actually get Robbie Porter on to talk about the oyster reef restoration project.
Robbie,
Porter.
what's his last name?
Robbie Porter. Go to Ozfish, and I can send you I'll put in the chat his email address, and he could do a great talk on this, right?
Thanks for the recommendation. I guess I've won something as well.
Yeah. Let me just find Robbie Porter's email address. And yeah, he would do a great Zoom presentation for you guys.
Excellent.
Do you know Robbie Porter, Vicky?
I know of him, yes.
Right.
Awesome.
He would do a great topic on oyster restoration, right?
Like your background.
There you go. There he is. Yeah, so email him and get him on Zoom and on your reef check. He would, because he shows pictures of, the oysters in one side, with the dirty water, and then an hour later it's clean, So, and he does, so we're actively involved in dropping these oyster robots into the ocean and stuff like this. So.
Yeah, I saw a short video USC posted about the oyster reef restoration project. It's amazing.
Yes,
extremely disheartening to say that it's all gone and we're trying to repair it. But
yes. But in your lifetime, perhaps not mine, but we'll have them. It's good.
Yes, I have hope. It'll come back.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you everybody for staying for the rest of the very, very end of this talk. And I'll end the call. So good night, everyone, and good night, Vicky. Thank you once again for showing up tonight. See you later, everyone.
Bye.